Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Malicious Compliance. In today's episode, you want your magazine? Fine, I'll deliver it right to your hand. Don't waste money on a hire car. Just deal with it? Sure we will, ma'am. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. You want your magazine? Fine, I'll deliver it right to your hand. Recently, I, 15F, started getting complaints on the paper round I work. I work a paper round for extra income since I'm not 16 yet and legally in the UK cannot get a proper job. I've had it for 2 years. Lately though, about 2 months or so, I got a new house on the round and they've been nothing but a pain. Not only is it out the way of my round, so pretty much a hassle to get to, they have to be very rude too. Lately, my boss has been forgetting to put magazines into the papers and they've constantly been complaining, resulting in me getting reprimanded. That in itself isn't bad, but they've yelled at me for not closing their gate properly, getting too close to their Ring doorbell and waving at their child from the window in the morning, all small things that led to this malicious compliance. 5 weeks ago, however, they were still complaining about getting no magazine despite me making sure before I delivered that it went through, and I was getting tired. The next time I delivered their papers, I knocked. Bear in mind, I have to get these papers delivered quickly, so it was 6 a.m. at this point. However, I knocked and knocked until the wife of the grumpy guy opened the door, half asleep and looking agitated. She coughs slightly, and in a typical Karen voice she goes, "What the hell do you want?" I look at her with fake stun as if I don't know what I'm doing and tell her I'm just delivering the magazine like you asked. At this moment, she knew she couldn't complain because 1. Her Ring doorbell caught it all, and 2. I had physically handed it to her this time, undeniable proof. For the next upcoming weeks, I knocked until they answered the door, making sure to knock extra loud. This morning, however, the husband answered the door and he looked defeated. He flat out looked at me and apologized. In his words, "At least we get it. We're sorry about the complaints. Please stop knocking so early and just get the paper through the door." After that long round, nothing felt more satisfactory than the sweet taste of malicious compliance. I may be underpaid, but it was all worth it to see that face. Don't waste money on a hire car. I'm a contractor but work for a government department. Work sometimes requires us to travel, which requires us to draft an itinerary with a travel budget before a senior manager signs off on it. I place a budget in front of the manager for a 7-day trip. "Manager, what's this? You are getting a hire car? We are not paying for a hire car." Me, but. "Manager, I'm going to stop you right there. We've been told to cut spending. This means no hire car for you." Context: I'm working on a project worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Me, "Okay then, no worries boss." The hire car would have been on a corporate rate, $70 p/day x 7 days. By the department's own rules, I was not allowed to carry confidential documentation on public transport, so I legally had to use taxis. Which is what I did, liberally. Between the airport, to my hotel, and the half dozen or so sites I had to visit, it ended up costing well over 10x what it would have cost to just give me a hire car. Just deal with it? Sure we will, ma'am. I used to work at a popular retailer that sold video games, toys, etc. When I worked there, we had 2 demo console displays to advertise the latest gaming consoles. Each display had a few demos provided that were always updated to the newer releases the company wanted to advertise. Our store was in a large retail outdoor mall. It was common for parents to come in and direct their kids to the displays so they could shop for themselves and their kid in peace without making sure they weren't making a mess or fuss. This normally wasn't a problem. Heck, even sometimes teenagers would come in just to play a few rounds on the displays and leave. As long as they weren't disruptive, no one really cared. For reference, these displays were at the very front of the store next to the door. Stage is set. One day, a parent comes in with her kid and starts to set him up at one of our gaming displays. Pretty normal. Then they just walk out after the kid is all set. Unless it's the holidays or a special event day, it's normally just 2 people on shift. My assistant manager, seeing this, bolted to the door to get the mom to take her child. As he's yelling out the door she can't just leave her kid here, she yells back, "I'm just going to browse the bookstore, just deal with him until I'm back." "Sure ma'am, we'll deal with it alright." My ASM comes back in and tells me to call the emergency police line, explaining a parent abandoned their child at our store. Our local police department was only a few blocks away, so an officer showed up quickly. He was very pleasant, and to help make sure the kid wasn't scared, hyped him up about taking a ride in the police car to wait for him mom. Kid got to ride into the front seat and even got to see the lights and sirens. Officer told us he'd call the parent and we were good to go. About 30 minutes later the mom came back. She was livid. She swung the door open screaming about how dare we call the cops and not watch her son like we said we would. My ASM reminded her we told her we could not watch her kid and that she did indeed tell us to just deal with it, so we did. Moral of the story: don't leave your kid to be babysat by underpaid employees. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.